Hi everyone, this is In the Middle
with Kes and Jamie.
Hi everyone, and this is In the Middle with Kes and
Jamie!
Yay! Jamie, how are you been?
I'm okay.
Okay, good. I'm fine too. Just thanks for asking.
Yeah. I'm sorry. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm great, thank you.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah, if anyone cares. Jamie, okay, so, I mean, I don't know, but as you know, I'm a mother of a teenage boy, and an interesting development has been going on amongst the youth, if you wish, and the topic that I wanted to discuss with you today, your opinions on teenagers and drugs, and not every single drug, but weed specifically.
Okay. You don't want to go through the whole list of drugs.
No,
Okay.
no, let's not go through the whole list of drugs, but just weed. It has, from what I know, amongst the teenagers now, it's a very popular thing. Smoking even, tobacco is not as sort of popular as smoking weed. Have you heard anything? I mean, you have a grandson coming up, growing up and getting into that age of potential interest of this. So tell me what you think.
Well, my personal experience is going to be a lot different than it is today. I mean, back in my day, it was a criminal act.
V-Day.
The day, back in my day, it was a criminal act, and you couldn't, the only people that did that were bad kids, the bad kids. I mean, not that they were really bad kids, but bad according to our standards back then.
Right.
And so it was kind of taboo, and it's been normalized, I guess, very much more so nowadays than it used to be. But
well, it's legal to smoke it in DC. And
something like that.
Yeah, it's illegal to grow it more than, I guess, 3
plants for your own use.
And it's being legalized in several states in the U.S.
Right.
It hasn't been legalized everywhere. Obviously, there's medical use as well.
Which was the primary threshold that they were using. They finally got into, the toehold into some of these states was the use of medical marijuana medicinally.
Obviously the young children or the younger generation don't fall into the group that use it for medical purposes.
No.
Though a lot of them
some of them try to
use and say it's because of stress, or I'm overworked.
Stress, go run.
And other things. A lot of athletes say it helps with the pain. A lot of say it helps with the sleep, and obviously, especially in the ages of sort of 13 to sort of 17, when a lot of things change as hormones. I guess a lot of anxieties are happening, and so they do stress more than and at different times, other times.
But we made it. I mean, it's not like it's any different than it is now than it is well as then. I mean, but I think that it's kind of a cop out because they're not adjusting themselves in a non-medicated or drugged way. I mean, you've got to adjust to life in some kind of way versus this is taking some pot or drinking, or I think it starts bad habits.
So what is it? Is it worse than alcohol? Is it not? How is it? Because obviously the literature that's out there, and obviously anything that you can find on the internet, and sort of supporting for parents, and this is something that I've read, and we've been having these discussions with my son, and obviously telling him that you shouldn't do it, or the dangers of it, or how you should be careful. But that had to happen for cigarettes, for alcohol, and then weed as well. But in reality, to what they are going to do after you've read them this lecture,
it's not.
What are they going to do?
There's only so much you can do, and then when they're out of the house, they're out of the house, and they're on their own.
Literally.
Because I never was taught anything about alcohol, because that was when we were growing up. I never did know anything about alcohol until I went to college. And, drinking it and learning about alcohol in a fraternity house is probably not the best place to do it. So it was I wish my parents had been a little bit more open in talking about some things, but I never did. I never did do pot or anything.
And this is one of the biggest things that all the sites are saying as helping hands to parents is that you have to start these communications. Pretty early. Some of them even suggest, middle school.
Because these kids are starting
7th grade.
These kids are starting early,
and you have to start telling them the dangers, that how they have to be careful. The fact that because somebody else is doing it, it's a cool factor. A lot of the times it's also that. So a lot of them have been told that they need, sorry, not a lot of them be told. It's just that the parents are taught to tell how to tackle the problem of not being, outcasted or not to be, that this is a popular kids thing to do and so on and so forth.
One of the other things I see that's a problem is because they're going to become, the long-term ramifications. Let's say they're slipping in school, they have much more, they become a little bit more erratic in their behavior, but especially the school part, which can affect where they go to school after that, college, or whatever they do after this, or it could affect that they get arrested. It's according to what situation
and
is.
that's a big list that one of the topics that parents are supposed to bring to the kids and say that those are the effects that you might experience if you do it. Now, but this is sort of going to a point where this could be a long-term effect, right? And
the brains are still developing, and I don't really know if there's. To me, it doesn't seem like my entire thing about marijuana is this, or in drugs.
Yes,
I don't really have much of a problem with them, really. But what I think is, do we really need to Americans a little bit more? I mean, get people a little bit more messed up. I mean, and drug them more. I don't know. But governments are going to see that they can tax this, and they're going to see that it's a source of income, which has happened in some of the states. There was conservative Republicans that were against it in Colorado, and now once they saw that money coming in, they're like, oh, they changed their mind, and so it becomes a money deal.
Well, it's a big conversation. We definitely can continue it in our future shows. So. Thank you, Jamie, for your peace of mind.
Thank you. So, Kes, have you heard about Leah Thomas, University of Pennsylvania swimmer? She is transgender.
Yep.
And in this particular case, it was from male to female. And has qualified for some NCAA championships. But there's, a lot of controversy around this stuff. And I know that a lot of her teammates are very supportive of it and the challenges that it poses. But there's a lot of people, parents and so forth, especially of minors, that have kids that have been champions in their own field in their own gender, and all of a sudden they're competing against this guy that that was a year ago was a boy, and so there's a lot of controversy around it, and I have really a lot of mixed feelings about it because I really can sympathize with a lot of the parents right now. So
and there's always two sides to a coin.
Sure.
Of course, on one hand, we know that Leah has went through. Already started transitioning in sense of medication and hormones and all of that lovely stuff. So that's been happening and that's been ongoing. And from what I understand from the transgender community, that while she's going through the changes, even though she's training and everything, that she's already not really a boy per se, but she's sort of becoming the girl. And in her head and the way she wants to be. Now, the question is her physical appearance and her physical body is manly, and plus, because she's been training as a boy or as a man when she was a man, she's been training with guys, so there is a lot of power training that went into that. Now, and from what I understand, while Leah was a boy, she was not really beating any records and sort of somewhat middle range swimmer.
But then what happened after that?
Then she became a girl and the swimming records have skyrocketed,
Right, and which to
And
me
so
gives some kind of evidence.
Kind of shows that yes, there is a big issue there, and I understand that the girls in the swimming team support her, but on the other hand, what happens to others, as you said?
Exactly.
And I think that it's a little. I think that the NCAA, right? It's called NCAA.
NCAA, yes.
And I think they're making a little rush decision.
I think they are.
I don't know if the community is ready for this.
I don't think they are.
Because I was having this conversation with my son, and he's a big lad, you know. He's 6'4", you know, like 100 kilos.
Hate to see him become a girl.
Right? But he goes, well, so I wake up tomorrow and I go, Mom, and he plays tennis, and he goes, okay, so I want to be a girl. Right, and then so what? He then has to compete with the girls, and
I think it's a little bit more involved than that. But
still,
you know, that's the basic.
But hold on, but he doesn't necessarily 100% has to go through the start the therapy yet to participate in the team. That's the thing, because I think it's the identity. You start with that, and only then, so he can then for a certain amount of time pretend that he's a girl, and we've no cases about obviously. Rapes that happen when men or boys were trying to say that they're girls.
A lot of violence.
A lot of violence. But the bigger thing is that I don't believe the community yet has been
when you say the
really educated. Well, I mean the people
in general.
In general, the community in general, people in general have not been educated about it well enough for us to really consider this to be a new norm. And not that let me just finish. Not that I don't think that that's right. That everyone should have the right to do so. But I think that it's just not ready.
You're exactly right. And the way that it's been set up of the last few years with Caitlyn Jenner, with what's his name? Bruce Jenner.
Right, but it's Caitlyn.
It is Caitlyn. Oh, I was right.
Yes.
Caitlyn Jenner. So,
and I was thinking, who else is there?
Well, I don't know. There's so many of those girls. And they all start with K. So Caitlyn Jenner and his transition from Bruce Jenner to Caitlyn. And there seemed to be like a social pressure that everybody was like, oh, you've got to accept this, and this is great, and this is fantastic, and people were just kind of caught off guard, and they did, because this is a extreme minority of an extreme minority,
right?
And so we're talking about a handful of people comparatively, the nation, and you're going to herald up the entire world and make it unfair for a certain group, for people that are cis, which is cis conforming is someone that identifies with their naturally selected or naturally identified male or female. They're not trying to transition.
But, I love the planes today, by the way. I love it. Thank you for the sound. But appreciate it.
It is. I think that one of the things that's going to have backlash about it is that people are not even allowed to ask a question. If you ask a question, you're homophobic, or transphobic, this. I'm like, hell, give them a chance to catch up.
Literally, but that, you see, asking a question is a big thing, but also more information for those that are actually participating. So, for instance, in the situation of the competitions for the younger generation, for those students in colleges, what happens, for instance, your daughter or your son have been competing and have been training for years, and the scholarship depends on it, and so on and so forth.
Sure.
And then, as you said, it is the minority of the minority, but yet this happens, and then 2 or 3 people slide down, and are not going to be on that list.
No, it's not fair. That's not fair.
They were definitely up there, and their numbers and speed was definitely good enough, fast enough to be getting prizes and scholarships, and now it isn't.
Right, and so it's bumped them down the pecking order, if not off the list. You're exactly right. And so where do you draw the line of being fair?
Well, and I think this is going back to really sort of education, to really informing everyone on what it is and how it works, and I think that we've somewhat conquered the professional world, professional athletes, and in big competitions, there's very clear guidelines and rules. Though with colleges, it seems like that's not been thought through very well yet. And even if there is a decision, I believe that has been reached, for instance, that before finalizing it, you really need to educate everyone around.
Right.
Because
In their own
otherwise-
way, rather than
absolutely, then just saying, do you know what? No, we've decided that that's the only way. We're not going to listen to anyone. That's it.
And I'm afraid for the community, it's going to listen. Be what you want to be. I don't give a shit. Male, female,
Sure.
dog, woman. I don't go whatever. I don't care. Yeah, but when it starts impacting other people, and what you're wanting to do with yourself is going to negatively impact my kids or somebody else's kids and so forth, I've got a problem with that. And my other thing about that, I think there's going to be a backlash with the community, with the LGBTQI community up at Pet Soup, is that they're not giving people a chance to even get used to it, and by them not getting used to it, there's going to be a big backlash that's not going to work in the LGBT.
Is it you? Okay. So
No.
jokes aside, I smell fine, by the way. You smell well. You smell okay. But the
Soap.
former royals, yeah, that's what it's known, right? The former royals, Harry and Meghan.
Karen.
God, well, it's just on the trans topic, so I'm like, maybe.
Oh, he says Harry's new name, his new transgender name is Heron. Harry and Heron.
Anywho, so they're facing or dealing with foul smell. Have you heard about that?
Oh, I've been hearing about this foul smell for a long time.
Well, basically, their huge mansion with 19 bathrooms and 9 bedrooms.
Okay,
which,
wait.
again, how much pissing and shitting do you have to do to have 19?
They must have
So it's like
two
it's
for
two
every bedroom.
I mean, it's
Has to.
insane.
I was trying to figure that out. I was like, why would you have 19 bathrooms?
Right? Anyway, let's not
Yeah, okay.
be jealous about that
I'm
bathroom
not.
situation.
I'm not jealous about it.
But basically, they live not far from a bird refuge, one which is, I think, the biggest in California in the state or something. And it's basically on a salty water marsh.
And what do marshes do?
And they stay still and stink when it's really
It
sunny.
creates swamp gas.
Yay! And that's what they're smelling now. And they have been complaining. Well, it's them and the very big and famous and rich neighbors.
Well, I'm sure that this has happened
And then
before.
we've been complaining and complaining. And it's like, well, darn nature. Do something about it. And apparently, from what we've read, that the smell's going to stay, or possibly could stay, till almost fall, autumn. Imagine that.
Nice and warm for the summer.
A lovely, lovely stink that they
I'll go
might have
somewhere.
to deal with. But on top of all of that, they also live not far from 42 acres of greenhouses that grow
Marijuana.
yay!
Or cannabis. It's fine.
And so apparently there's some wings that bring that smell too. Jesus Christ, I don't think they've done enough research of where
Well,
they're
yeah,
gonna live.
exactly. I mean, they didn't do due diligence.
No.
It's like, hey, maybe there might be a swamp gas problem, or somebody didn't disclose that to them. But anyway, now we know where the 16-year-olds are going to get their pot.
Right. I think so. Okay, so it's all down in California.
So, are they running a little dispensary?
Somewhere in Santa Barbara, lots of stinky places,
Yeah.
and some of them are,
Some of them are from with swamp gas, and
all
some of them
natural.
are not.
So
Some
the
was just
poor
full of shit.
royals, I feel bad for them,
Oh.
and all the other Santa Barbara neighbors that they have, and
Yeah, I'm sorry
it's
they had to
terrible.
live with them too.
That's his joke.
I said
not mine.
it. Yeah, I said it.
But anywho, a lot of smells, not all pleasant, and
And not us. Not us.
and not us,
That's it.
which I'm happy to say.
Guys, thank you for joining us today, and we'd like to be sure that you hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And we will be talking to you on any comments that you send us. We'd like to hear from you and your comments, and anything else you'd like to say to us, good or bad. So anyway, with that, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye, guys.